You've got John McMullen and Jody McDonald, a.k.a. the Mac and Mac guys, and we are joined by one Chris Franklin. He's coming from indoors, not his Trenton studios that from time to time. Trenton Times, is that the T in the background?
Oh, not today. I'm going from the home office today. I'm mixing it up. I'm staying home. I gotta rest up a little bit after watching that debacle on Sunday.
Understood. But the T I'm referring to, you've done it before.
Oh yeah, the Gloucester County Times. Yeah, the Gloucester County Times. Yeah,
I knew it wasn't Trenton. I don't know why I thought that, but thank you for correcting me. But no, you got a nice home office, and you look like you're ready to talk Eagles football with us for the next 30 minutes. All right. The Eagles got their tails kicked on Sunday by the Niners. We all agree to that. What's the unfixable thing going into the Cowboys this week? What is the one that we can all sit down, all watch the tape, all agree on, and we got to be better at this, but you go, but then how do you fix it? And the Eagles don't have an answer. Is there a problem that was so big and at this stage of the season can't go? They think Shaq Leonard's going to fix linebacker. We'll see. Is there something with the Eagles that was so exposed on Sunday you're going, oh, man, everybody in the league is going to target this, and the Eagles don't have an answer for it?
I think it's just overall the tackling downfield. I think that's the biggest thing when you look at it. I think when you look at the I know there's some criticism of cornerbacks, but I think it was overall as the whole back seven and in pursuit trying to get these guys down from picking up these extra yards. And if you think that Kittle and Samuel are tough, look at CeeDee Lamb, the way he's able to run downfield and make plays that way as well too. And I mean, think about DK the following week, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. So it's tough to become a better tackling team this late in the season, but that's something that has me concerned, going throughout for the rest of the season. I mean, I think you can do some corrections. I don't think it'll be as bad as we saw it as we saw last Sunday, but I think it's something that is cognizant and needs to be corrected.
Yeah, Nick kind of mentioned that yesterday, Chris, that they were top 10 in missed tackling metrics coming into the game and all that kind of stuff. So the advanced numbers. I was just talking even after the game. Pro Football Focus has them as the 6th best tackling team in the NFL. Tackling is kind of a lost art in the league as a whole. Is it just a game where you say, it's uncharacteristic, flush it, you correct it, like Nick said, technique, blah, 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 leverage. But when you compare them to the rest of the league, they tend to be a better tackling team. So you just say, we had a bad day.
I think it's also got to look at some of the teams they played beforehand. I think the only guy, when you look at the Bills, the only guy you really fear, like after catching the ball and moving downfield was Stephon Diggs. I know Gabe Davis is bigger, but you saw that. You just look at some of the other opponents they have. I don't think they had the players that are capable of making those plays downfield as the ability can to the extent that they can, like in the 49ers. A lot of things I think, if there's any benefit that comes from this, maybe they take a little bit more of they're a little bit more aware of their pursuit. I thought some of the angles they took on some of those tackles were late, and I think a lot of times you can't just throw. That's the one thing I just don't get with a lot of these guys. It's like in the NFL, not just on the Eagles, but overall, that they think you can just throw a shoulder and get somebody down by the legs, and you can't do that. You can't do that at all anymore. So I think, if anything, I think the pursuit and the awareness of that maybe it heightens them a little bit, and maybe it helps them better get back on track. But to me, it's still a concern long term.
All right, Chris Franklin, this past game, Kenny Gainwell played 39 snaps. DeAndre Swift played 30 snaps. Why?
Well, if you ask Nick, it's about about more 2 minutes and everything else. I thought they should have involved. Personally, I thought they should have involved Swift a little bit more early on, because I think the one thing, especially to slow down that 49er pass rush, is to attack them at the point of attack and run at them, especially at the edges, because the tackles did, for the most part, did decent. Well, like Lane and Jordan, they didn't try any edges. I thought if you ran at them a little more, you can make them a little bit less effective. You start just basically tire them out a little bit. I thought that could have been to run toward that inside, but that's really the edges on there. But DeAndre Swift is too much of a weapon, and he's proven that he's done this, that you need to feed him the ball. I mean, if you made the argument early in the year that you wanted to save him a little bit more, you didn't want to give him the carries, because you want him available healthy as you went along. Yeah, but these are the type of games that you wanted to see him get the ball and be that impact player that you traded for. And I just think he needs more touches. And if it's not this week, they better do it next week against Dallas. They just have to fix that way.
Yeah, I'm surprised that's so much of a thing. Everybody brought up obviously Kenny and DeAndre. DeAndre got banged up late when he got lit up by Dominique Lenoir. Alberto played more than Stoll. Quez Watkins was out there. I don't know if Quez had more to do with Julio was banged up or what. We have to keep an eye on that. But to me, that's because it was a blowout. So you want those pass catchers, and I put that in quotes because Kenny Gainwell, the third down, hurry up guy, Albert, who's more athletic than Jack Stoll, even though they don't catch the ball, but in theory, they're better than the other guys. I think it was just because they were blown out. I think if it were a close game, Swift would have gotten more touches than Gainwell, and Stoll would have gotten more touches than Alberto. Am I crazy?
I think it is tough. I think when you look at Alberto, that is something that I think you see that you want him to be somebody who could be a pass catcher in that, and is able to do that. I think that Kenny, they love him. That's Nick's Naeem Hines.
Well, they do love him.
Yeah, that's his Naeem Hines, and I look at that and if you want to have, I think you use more. I just think you need more Swift. I sound like you need more Cowboy. I think you need more Swift when it comes to that part. I just don't. The use is part of that.
You need more Swift.
Hey, pause. But yeah, I just look at it, and the 2-minute thing is I get why Kennedy's in a 2-minute drill, but I also think that with the ability of Swift catching the ball out the backfield, I think he just gives you more of a home run threat when it comes to it.
Yeah, again, foolish me. I go back to production and what they've actually done rather than what you think they're going to do or what your preconceived notion of them is. And Swift has just been a better back. So that's
all right. Well, let me turn that to both you guys, because Jody and Chris. Also, I kind of said, why is Jalen Hurts back in the game?
I definitely.
That was everybody.
DeAndre Swift, why are you playing these guys in a blowout game? Your key guys. Maybe that's an extra layer. Like DeAndre got hurt. We don't know. Is DeAndre healthy? I don't know. We're gonna have to see.
How much time was left in the game when Lenoir laid him out?
I don't remember. I'd have to look.
I don't know. It was late. I gotta look back in that. It was late.
It was late.
I don't think that swung why Gainwell had more snaps than.
But my overriding point is, why are you playing your key guys when the game's over?
I thought this, and that's what
you got to take Kelsey out too. You got to draw a line somewhere, and the first one to me is quarterback. And then everybody else we can debate. But you got to get your quarterback, your star quarterback with Marquise Mariota, who, by the way, went 2 of 3. Give Marcus a thumbs up. Passing rating. You got to get him. And then everybody else gets lumped. You can have the quarterback and then everybody else.
Well, it only matters when somebody.
Oh, my God, we got to get DeAndre Swift off the field.
Well,
in the same category.
I think a lot of those criticisms are unfair. Like people were saying, you play the guys. I mean, Nick's convoluted answer was we were down 2 scores. No, you were down 3 scores, and probably shouldn't have put Jalen Hurts back in. Everybody else should play. I mean, I'm in that category, but I'm just saying for people who complain about key players playing in blowout games, can't have it both ways. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think you can. I think the quarterback is a different animal,
especially the head injury. That was for me. Like I didn't see anyone, and I don't know if it's one of those things where they wanted to, we go with a good taste in our mouth heading into next week and try to watch them saw that scoreboard and then being a weird score, like as being deficit and stuff like that. It was one of the momentum going in there, but I thought a lot of guys, especially after Swift got hurt, I feel like okay, that was it. Everybody's going to get pulled, and here comes the backups. But I was shocked about that.
Yeah, and maybe they should have, but. they're a very competitive team. They're not used to getting beat like this, Chris. You have to really go back to the playoff game when they weren't. They were a different team in Tampa, and they weren't supposed to make the playoffs. It was a surprise they made the playoffs, and they got blown out. It was, what was it, 31-0 before they got some garbage time points. I think that's the last blowout, meaningful blowout. They're not used to this. And I'm interested to see how they respond from just, to me, it's not about the loss. It's about how badly they were beaten. Do you expect them to be able to turn the page just easily?
I think for two reasons. One, the fact that we're not used to it, I think that gives them it's just a telltale sign. Like, you know what? Yeah, they're not ready for that, and I think that's an extra fire under their butt. And it's not like they already, it's not like they need it already, because they know that next week pretty much is almost the de facto who could win, who's got an easier path to win in the NFC East. So I think that it was bad enough that they already knew that they needed that game. But I think the fact they got they got a boat race, I think that definitely added a little bit as well too. And especially the way you saw some of the veterans come back and the answer they did, and some of the other guys that have been here a long time, the way they answered it, I think it's going to be a little bit more intense during this whole entire week. Because yeah, I mean, when you're winning, you sit back and relax and go, okay, everything's fine, guard down a little bit, and then all of a sudden you get beat like that. I think it just refocuses everybody when it comes something like that happens.
All right, I want to make a suggestion to Sean Desai here, since PFF decided to grade the game the way they did against the 49ers. I would not have Nicholas Morrow covering CD Lamb, because supposedly he was covering Deebo Samuel and got burned for all these after catch yards. But CD Lamb's going to be CD Lamb. And last game against the Eagles, he had 11 catches for 191 yards. John said the day after, I would have gone for 18 catches for 250 if I were the Cowboys. They didn't throw it to him enough. Maybe they listen to McMullen this time and he gets the ball thrown his way 18 times. How the hell are the Eagles going to slow down CD Lamb?
It's key to the offense doing long drives. I think that's the best way to do it. No, but I think this is one of those games I'd have slight travel. I know that there's been mixed reviews, everybody saying, I know people were saying that. I just think that you put your best on best and say, you know what? You're not going to beat us. Slay, follow him around, and then you just adjust everything else accordingly. Could that lead some communication issues in that back seven? Yeah, sure, it really could. But
well, they have those issues anyway, so I'm with you. They have those issues anyway, so who cares?
Good point.
Yeah,
Sean Desai's been. I talked about it a lot. He's gotten a lot of love, and I think for the most part he's done a good job in a difficult situation. But, I'm starting to think, you know what? At the end of the day, to go to Jody's production routes, this isn't a very good defense. Who's responsible for that? Howie Roseman? When Shaq Leonard takes over, as I assume he's going to, as a starting linebacker on this team, whether it's this week, next week, they're going to have 4 guys who weren't here at the start of training camp that are starting players. Roby and nickel, Cunningham and Leonard at linebacker, Byard at safety. That's a lot. There's only 11 players on defense. Now, part of it's injuries. Obviously, if Avonte Maddox was here, it wouldn't be a problem. Nakobe Dean, though, you could say it's the injury, but was it? He wasn't playing that well. And Byard was an upgrade, but maybe that's about what you had before. Have we given Howie too much love? Who are we blaming for this mess in the back seven?
See, a lot of times I think it goes when you look at personnel wise, this goes to that outside shell where you focus on defensive linemen, focus on cornerbacks, and then everything else in the middle, you just roll with that. So I think the one thing, if anything, you look at linebackers, you got to look at personnel side, and I think also got to look at the. I think it's shared. I put Desai, and I think Howie, they should share blame on this one. The reason being, I look at the side, like if you know that your linebackers are having issues or you're weaker at that area, maybe you go to a different front. Maybe you go to a different look. I don't know if it's more, hey, let's use more big nickel or what have you, and then rely on those big defensive tackles, play them more, and hope they can stop the run a little bit, so it makes it a little bit tougher. And I just think overall, you look at that scheme as well too. So like when guys this late in the season are still having coverage breakdowns, like they're confused, maybe it's just time to scale back some of that stuff. Maybe just ramp it up a little bit more. It's reminiscent to me like with the Super Bowl, because I remember that week before when you saw a couple guys, they were trying to work out how they were trying to mismatch in the locker room. It was like, and they were going at it for a good like 20 minutes. I was waiting for a question to ask, and I'm like, okay, and they're still going that way. I'm like, okay, I'll just go somewhere else. And then now you see it manifest itself again. Maybe it's just the scheme itself. When it goes
I hate the scheme. I hate it.
That's the way. Yeah. And we always, and I still harken back to Nick's opening press conference where you say, you know what, you will want to make the defense simple and so let the playmakers fast and do their thing.
And they do the exact opposite. Yeah.
And oh, by the way, John, to answer your question, with tongue firmly implanted in cheek, who do you blame? Derek Barnett. The domino effect that is Derek Barnett. Because he got paid.
Eric's gone.
That means they can't pay linebacker. And they were going to trade him. Oh, they're going to trade. They can get something for him. They got nothing for him. And he talked his way out of town at the very end. It's all Derek Barnett's fault.
Yeah, he's joking. I'm gonna stick up for my guy Derek Barnett. I'll take it this way. I'm gonna play Drew Rosenhaus. Since Derek Barnett has left the organization, they've completely fallen apart on defense. Completely.
All right, I'll get a memo out to his agent and let him know that Derek played. Did you know Derek played this week? Did you even know?
I did not.
He did. He got in 14 snaps for the Texans. Guess what? Didn't hit the box score. He didn't take a penalty. I got to give him the thumbs up for that one. No stupid penalties. 14 snaps. You wouldn't have known it unless you were actually.
Texans won the game, though, didn't they? Did the Texans win the game?
Because of Derek Barnett? Come on.
Hey, man. The Eagles have fallen apart. The connection is clear.
You want to give me an Eagle Texan bet between now and the end of the season who gets more wins?
Hey,
I'll take Philadelphia, McMullen. If you're ready to back the Derek Barnett Texans in a bet with the Eagles, since you're comping them now, I'll take as much as you want to put up.
Obviously, this is shtick, but hey, the Texans are a game behind the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm just saying. Don't sleep on that team.
So are the Colts with Shane Steichen.
Yeah.
He is. Now,
now that's legitimate.
We'll get the ire of the streamers here. Shane Steichen has a better chance to win Coach of the Year than Nick Sirianni does. You heard it from my lips. I'm not telling you I would vote this way, but I'm telling you the way that the voting has gone forever. Shane Steichen can win Coach of the Year. Nick Sirianni has no chance whatsoever.
When you look at what Nick last year, you look at the odds Nick had, and then you look at this year, the odds Nick had, even with the top one. Yeah, and I don't know what everybody's just probably go, oh, he had a better roster, that one, and look what the other guys did. That's always going to be as long as this Eagles team is really good like this with all the guys they have on the roster, he's going to get slighted.
Correct. It's always going to be tough. Now you bring up Shane, but that brings us into Shaq Leonard, Chris. I mean, the Colts are in the playoff hunt, as Jody pointed out. They weren't supposed to be. And they got a real shot. And they said, you know what? We don't want Shaq Leonard. What does that tell you?
I think they're trying to go young and trying to go, especially build everything around Anthony Richardson. And even with the linebackers we talked about earlier, how it not being a position that everybody really truly cares about. Look at the money he's making. I think they're like, you know what, let's just cut bait now and just have everybody roll with this and try to build this young core.
My only argument, real quick, my only argument with that is they already paid him the money. They were going to pay him the money. I mean, you cut him after the season. We know that's coming. But why not use him if he's giving you something when you're trying to make a run towards the playoff? That's a little bit of a concern to me that they said, you know what, we're in the hunt, but we don't need this guy. That's a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, but you got to keep it in the exact context too. They're 5-5 when they cut him. Now they're 7-5. Now they're legitimately in it. When they cut him, they were 5-5, coming out of a bye.
They were still in it, but yeah, it's looking better because they won a couple games. But I don't know. I think PFF had him as 61 out of 85 or something.
I'll sing a narrative for you here, and I don't know it to be the case, but I'm just playing along here. he was a borderline beloved figure in
Oh, yeah.
Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah.
And
I would
they
say
had
no
a guy,
borderline.
right?
Yeah.
They had a guy who had outperformed him. And they said, how can we sit the better player and tell Shaq, listen, you're down to 10 snaps a game or something. We'd rather cut him and let him do what he wants. And as a reward for his years of service here in Philadelphia, rather than keep him as a backup.
All right. Jody's giving you a positive spin. I like it.
I'm trying.
Sounds like Zach Ertz situation. This Indianapolis Colts Zach Ertz situation. It really is me.
Zach Ertz, is he coming? Chris Franklin. Is he next?
Before yesterday, I would say there was no way, but now the fact the Ravens are out, they basically effectively said he's out. I think it's in play. I don't know how, because this team barely uses 12 a lot.
They don't even throw the ball to anybody not named AJ, Devontae, or Dallas. They don't even throw the ball to anybody else.
And I'm looking like how I'm trying to figure out how it works. Like, okay, you add him on the field. Okay, who are you taking snaps away? You taking away? I know you can say, oh, well, Quez, but you know how much they use Quez for the spacing part. Olamide they love for the blocking part and his ability to make big catches in certain situations. And then you know how much they love Julio. So like, who are you going to? I'm looking like how you're going to incorporate and get Zach the targets that he would like. And then I'm also worried about, do you have Goddard going like, oh, this guy's back. I used to be the number one. I know I'm number one now, but does he start siphoning some of my catches away? Like, I think it's just you're looking in those situations.
You know, it's not about the catches, Chris. It's about, I brought this up before to Jody, and Tommy Lawler was on the show. If you're playing 12 with Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert's got to be the inline guy. And he doesn't want to be the inline guy. That is the problem. That is the problem to me. And it's like, Tommy was like, Zach's, and he got better. Zach was a really poor blocker when he first got here, but he got better and he worked at it and he deserves credit. But if you have Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz and one of them's got to be in line, it's got to be Dallas.
Dallas is a better blocker.
And that's going to piss off Dallas.
Yeah, see, I disagree with that. What is the drop-off from Jack Stoll being an inline guy and Zach Ertz being an inline guy? How much worse are they? Because, again, my whole thing about Zach is you lay it out for him before you ever sign. Zach, here's what we're going to use you for. It's this, that, the other thing. It's not going to be this, that, or the other. That you used to be the tight end here. This is what we expect of you. This is how we're going to use you. If you're good with it, we can continue the conversation. If you're not, we'll get you tickets for the championship game. But we're moving in another direction. He has to buy in 100% to the way you're going to use him. And if that is when in 12 personnel, he's the inline guy, he has to go, I'll give you everything I got blocking. I'll do whatever you guys ask. If he doesn't, then you move on. But I want to at least ask him that question.
Well, I almost said something that would have been a bad comparison, but no, it's like in saying like I look at, and I'm not, and before anybody says that, I'm not comparing Grant Calcaterra to Zach Ertz whatsoever. I'm not doing that. But it's a similar to me. They're a similar type of guy. I'm not going to use a receiving guy who can potentially be inside and potentially hurt you when it comes to the blocking aspect. And I just want to get that. He's better. I'd rather have him, if that's the case, I'd rather see him split him out and just say, okay, you take over the Julio role and you play that. If that anything like that, okay, yeah. But I just look at it away like if I'm going to have to use them inside, like and try to block on those. If I need third and short, fourth and short, and you're trying to run a pass play on that, I just don't see if you keep leaving the urge to block and letting Goddard go out there. It's just to me, if you're going to bring him here, he needs to be a part of this in the passing game and frequently enough to warrant him being there for to outweigh all the potential issues that could happen later on.
Zach Ertz ain't playing the Jack Stoll role. I mean, is Jack's not Mark Bavaro. He's not, if you use current tight ends, he's not Josh Oliver, 265 pounds. But he's a better blocker than Zach Ertz. And if you have, and Dallas, by the way, is a better blocker than both of them. He's a better blocker than Stoll. But Stoll's good enough to where you can feel comfortable saying, all right, this is not so weighted that I can play Dallas, who's a great receiver as well. I can play him in the flex role and put Jack in line. Nick's too good of a coach to do that. Put Zach. If he's got those two in the building and he's going to play them at the same time, Zach's got to be outside. Dallas has got to be inside. Then you're screwing up with the chemistry, and Dallas Goedert's not going to be happy.
All right, Chris Franklin, here's my last question for you. And I already put the CD Lamb jinx out there that I think he's going to get 15 targets on Sunday. He's the one guy you got to stop. If you're Shane Steichen, you can't let CD Lamb beat you. Flip side it. Micah Parsons is a game wrecker. He had a sack and a half against the Eagles the first time. He didn't wreck the game, but the Eagles had a tough time handling him. He had certainly an impact on the game. No one else on the Cowboys. I guess Deron Bland because he gets pick six. Oh, by the way, Geno Smith lit up Deron Bland the other day. A one-armed Geno Smith who couldn't throw the ball.
Geno was hot, man. He was hot. He played a great game.
You want to talk about point guard. You don't think Purdy throws the ball well. Compared to Geno Smith, he's got a laser attached to his right shoulder. Geno was throwing ducks up there, and they kept landing in. Well, they got guys who go up and fight for the ball, unlike Quez Watkins. So just keeping it in its proper perspective. How do you keep Micah Parsons from blowing up this game? If you are the Brian Johnson, how you scheming? What are you doing? You're asking specific guys to do specific things. He's the only one who scares me from the Dallas defense. They're a solid unit. I'm not saying they're a bad unit, but there's only one guy who legitimately scares me. That's Micah Parsons. How do you keep him from blowing up the game, Chris Franklin?
Looking back at that last game when those two teams played, I thought the biggest thing was what Hurts was still dealing with that knee issue, and he wasn't as mobile as he was beforehand. And you saw when they had success with him against it, they were able to play him in space, utilize that the zone read and the RPOs, all that stuff to get him in space to make Micah just sit in space and like, okay, I don't know. I think that's the way. If you make him think and he's out and has to make a decision between two, I think you can really slow him down. And I feel comfortable enough that you're able to do that now the way we've seen Hurts run and he looks a lot more effective. I think that's how you do it. And then I don't know. I just have a feeling there's no inside info, whatever. Feeling we've seen the Eagles use that slant and go a lot recently in these games.
Yeah, it was back. Yeah.
I could see you do. Call me. I don't know that first play of the game. I know we're talking about running and establishing run early on. I think that's the perfect time to go at him. You can get an early lead, especially if you get the ball first. Slant and go against Bland because he's going to bite because he's very aggressive, which is going to be nice, but he can also lead to what happened last week. And you have
you can take double move. Same thing with Trayvon and Trayvon Diggs when he's healthy. Double move him. A wise man who likes to avoid all extremes, I'll say that, once told me, if you can't block them, read them. And that's sort of Micah Parsons. It was ironic, Chris, evidently, he didn't even do the right thing on the play where he won the game. And he's so good. He was in there 1.4 seconds, which is pretty stinking amazing.
When that was explained, the fact that I was like, I went back and looked at that, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, you see it. Like
they're both at the C gap. I'm watching it. I'm like, damn, they ran. They didn't run what they wanted to run, and he was back there in 1.4 seconds.
How much you want to bet they screenshot of that one? That's being used next week. It's some variation of that. I got it. It's gonna be.
All right, Chris Franklin, I'm going to ask you, hold you to something you just said about Hurts, that he's now running the ball better again, somehow for 20 yards this past week. His average is 40 yards a game. He's got 11 games, 430 yards. So 39 yards a game. If you want me to set the over-under at 38.5, I will. Jalen Hurts rushed for more than 38.5 yards, better than average game against the Cowboys this week.
38.5. I'll check the under because I think it's going to be like 32, 30.
Then how is that a key to keeping Mr. Parsons from blowing up the game? You just told me Jalen's got to run it to keep Parsons.
Because I think it's going to be a lot. I think it's going to be a lot of 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 3s, and stuff like that for it. So that way, that is, and that average, though, the push got. That's one thing. You may get the touchdowns. That average goes down big time.
I think. Yeah, that's why I didn't go average. I went total yard.
Yep.
Because Jalen's average, you can't even rely on because he does as many tush pushes he does. That screws him. So that's why I'm saying total yards 38.5. If you're telling me Jalen's running is a key to keeping Parsons from breaking up the game, he's got to do more than 38.5.
Hey, third and 5, third and 4s. You're inside there. You know, you look at that play sheet, and Cowboys got to worry about you passing the ball with those receivers. I'm going the edge. 35, get 5, and we know how much he slides when he gets down. Like, oh, field, see somebody around there. All right, go out of bounds. He'll just keep the drive going that way. So yeah, that's why.
Remember, Nick's an esoteric guy. He's talking about Quez Watkins stretching the field. It's the threat of Jalen Hurts pulling the football that affects.
Yeah, but John, you and I both have said the threat has not been there this year, and
it was not. It was not there. You know, when the threat, it was not there when he was hurt. It was there early in the season. Again, the effectiveness wasn't. He wasn't as effective, but people were threatened by it, and now people are threatened by it again. Basically, look at DeAndre Swift's good games. That's when you know the threat is there. That's when the threat is there. That's when he's got space, and that's when. Now, last game was a blowout, so they stopped running the ball. That was part of it, but so you can kind of throw that one out. But yeah, when the threat is there, there's a lot more space for the running backs to do damage.
We know the threat is back because of the 65 yards against Buffalo. That's what you're telling me.
They had a good game against Buffalo, didn't they?
Yeah, he did. He had a good game. He ran for 65 yards.
Yeah.
So, but that's the one game that you would go, all right.
Well, no, he came back. He came back from the bye without the knee sleeve, and he was feeling better. And yeah, it was there last week as well.
He didn't run it against Kansas City.
No, but the threat was there.
That was the game after the bye.
But the threat was there. And last week as well, it didn't manifest itself because it was a blowout. But so you don't know, but he's healthier and he's comfortable, and he'll run it if he needs to run it. And that helps the Eagles running backs. That's all I'm saying.
We're all talking theory here. In theory, you agree, I agree, Chris agrees. Now they got to go do it. And it is all going to be determined by how the Cowboys defend it. Do they show him the type of respect that they should with his ability to make a play? Chris Franklin says under 38.5. Yeah, I have to agree with you. For a different reason, Chris. I don't think he's back. I think the knee's still bothering him. And I think we saw that this
Here's what I'm going to recommend, Chris Franklin. At C Franklin News, number one, I'm going to recommend reading everything Chris writes on this particular team, NJ.com, everywhere. You can see him in South Jersey. I'm going to recommend that. And I'm going to recommend no outside the numbers throws to Deron Bland's side. Don't even mess with it. Don't even mess. You can go with the double move and go up the field. Nothing outside the numbers because he's got.
I think just do one.
You better be on time. You better be on time if you're trying to throw it out on Deron Bland.
Yeah, you just do one because then you can set up the slant, the screen and go. Just do one to get him in his face. To like, I'm not afraid you to do it, but then you just go. You're kind of going to be. We're kind of going leery and then go up and out on that one too. Just one. Don't live out there.
And use Quez to do it because he is the guy who draws.
No, don't use Quez to do it. Use AJ. At least AJ can play defensive back.
Chris Franklin, thank you very much. You know, we love having you on the show. We will get you up again either next week or the week after. Thanks for jumping in today.
All right, thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one now.
Chris Franklin, NJ.com, here with us on Birds 365. All right, Mac coming back. We got to put a bow on the show. Tuesday, getting close to moving on. They've turned the page. They flushed it. We'll see if that's the case. Come back with more on Birds 365 in just a sec.